So some of the Tyranid Gaunts got shown off last Friday, with the brand new Barb Gaunts and Neurogaunts bringing some very different but potentially very useful powers to your swarm. Barb Gaunts are the big brother of the Gaunt family. They sit on 40mm bases, so they are quite a bit bigger than the other Gaunts that we are all used to, and they also come in squads of 5 rather than 10, so they aren't the meat shield, objective holding, harassing unit that most of the other Gaunts tend to be. These have a much more defined purpose in that they are essentially slightly smaller artillery bugs compared to things like the Exocrine and the Biovores. And what they come with is a massive biocannon strapped to their backs, which gives them a genuinely scary amount of firepower. Because yes, the biocannon itself may only be strength 5, 0 AP and 1 damage, but at 24-inch range it can put out D6 shots, and it has blast, and it is heavy. So even though these guys are natively hitting on 4s, a squad of 5 can be changing that to 3s if they stay still, and then sure, against something like a single tank that profile isn't all that scary, but the blast rule means that for every 5 models in a unit that you target, you get +1 attack. So against something like 30 Orc Boys, that means a potential 30 plus 5d6 shots, for an average of around 47 shots. And at strength 5, that means against the current T5 6-up save Orc Boy that we know and love, they will be taking around 13 wounds, almost killing half the entire squad off in one go. And it gets even better than that for the Nids, because if you aren't that impressed by that amount of damage output, any infantry units hit by this weapon have to subtract 2 from their movement, their advance, and their charge rolls until the end of their next turn. So this is reasonably damaging all by itself, but it is also hugely good at debuffing the enemy. And even if we just consider the movement alone, dropping a Marine from 6 inches to 4 inches or a Necron from 5 inches to 3 inches is a huge impact on their ability to grab objectives or just move around the board and score secondaries. It really is a massive, massive deal. And if you have an enemy unit that wants to get a charge off that turn, it's even worse, because that's potentially -4 inches to their overall threat range. And then if you're a lucky unit that has something like advance and charge, like we saw in the Khorne preview, that could be potentially -6 to their overall movement for that turn, which essentially negates pretty much their entire actual movement phase for things like Khorne Berserkers. It is a really, really powerful ability, and if in 10th there is still the opportunity for you to pick different targets in a unit, I don't know if there is. I don't know if we've seen confirmation if every model in the unit can choose a different target, but if potentially your 5 Barb Gaunts could shoot at 5 different infantry units, if they all hit, that's potentially 5 units getting a nerf to their movement, and that will massively cripple an enemy army. So I think using the Barb Gaunts as a way to do chip damage is great. Like, they can do a decent amount with those D6 strength 5 shots, especially against bigger squads. But the main use, what is going to make these guys so good, is stopping your opponent playing the game, stopping them moving around the board, stopping them claiming objectives, stopping them getting into charge range. There just seem to be some incredibly good uses for this squad, and I think having a squad or 2 in your list just to essentially stop enemy melee units from getting into combat until turn 2 or maybe even turn 3 is going to be a really, really good use of these, and I can see them being very, very popular because of it. On the other hand, we were also shown off the Neurogaunts, and they, to me anyway, seem a bit more of a hard sell. As you can see, they do have the typical pretty awful Gaunt stat line. They are toughness 3, they've got a 6-up save, they've got 1 wound, they've got an 8+ leadership. I mean, you are not bringing these guys for their durability or their damage output. 1 attack at force to hit, strength 3, 0 AP and 1 damage is, well, let's not beat around the bush, it's really, really bad. But what these guys do bring is quite an interesting rule where they can help boost your synapse range. And the neurosights that they have on their backs let them act as though they have the synapse keyword as long as they are in synapse range themselves. So they can essentially sit within 6 inches of a Tyranid Prime or a Hive Tyrant and you get an extra 6 inches of synapse spread out from these guys. And considering they presumably come in a squad of 10 and you can spread them out a little bit with coherency, you can potentially get a good extra 12 inches in total of synapse if you spread these guys out to get over the rest of your army. So you can absolutely use these to get a huge amount of synapse cover across a load of your army and hit units that may be out of synapse for things like your Hive Tyrant, but get them in range with these guys, which is of course really useful for the NIDs because synapse gives you that 3d6 battle shock test, so you will be very unlikely to fail those tests that you need to make. The big issue with these guys, of course, is they're going to be super easy to kill. So if you are relying on them too much for your synapse, like if you've got units that are out of synapse from things like your Hive Tyrant and you just think, it's fine, the Neurogaunts are there, they will spread the synapse to them, they are going to be priority target number 1 and they will die very easily. As in, 30 bolter shots will wipe out a squad of 10 with no problem at all before we even consider any buffs they may have. So they are going to be useful and they will really help you to spread synapse out around your army a lot more, but they could be a massive hindrance to you if you rely on them too much, I think. So unless they are super cheap and you just take a huge squad of 20 or 30 to try and tank as much damage as they can while spreading out that synapse as far as they can around the rest of your army, I really do think that they may end up being more of a liability compared to just taking another bigger, more durable synapse unit anyway. Like, do you really want 10 toughness 3 wounds when for maybe a bit more you could take an HQ unit like a Tyranid Prime or whatever it may be that may have less wounds but will probably be more survivable, maybe a leader and can join a squad and will still be able to spread out that synapse to a lot of your forces? So I mean, I don't know, they are obviously going to have some benefits to them or else GW presumably wouldn't have made them, so I think there is going to be a case for taking them if you do just need that extra bit of synapse. But I do really think if you have the idea in your head that you can just bring 1 or 2 big synapse creatures and then rely on a few squads of these to be the bulk of your synapse kind of bubble, then they are just going to get taken out really quickly and you'll be stuck with an incredibly limited synapse range and you're just going to fail battle shock time and time again. So I would say overall the Barb Gaunts, they seem like a pretty good win to me. They seem very useful in terms of doing good damage and also in terms of debuffing the enemy quite significantly. Neurogaunts, I'm not so sure on. I want them to be good because I quite like the models and I think they have a pretty cool sort of idea behind the fluff of them, but I just want to see exactly how much they cost and if they have anything else that they do before I think they are going to be worth taking over just another synapse unit. But that is going to be it for this little showcase they gave us on Friday. What do you make of these 2 new Tyranid Gaunt units? And which do you think you will be bringing most in your games of 10th edition? Let me know down in the comments below, and as always, thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe for more Warhammer content from me, but until next time, I'll catch you later guys.